Hello there. Now, our wonderful Keir Starmer-led government is telling us to continue life as normal. But there is a massive train coming down the tracks and nothing to stop it. And there is even talk now of an upcoming world recession, because the disruption around the Straits of Hormuz is set to continue for at least some weeks. And with 20% of all the world's oil and gas going through there, everything's affected. Prices are going to go up. And it's going to affect everything from not just oil and gas and food, but to things like fertilizers and aluminium and steel production. It's going to be absolutely extensive because of the amount of reliance we place on foreign energy across the world, especially in the UK. The IMF are warning that the UK is going to be one of the hardest hit. And when the price of transport goes up, the price of everything goes up, especially when you ship everything in like we do from overseas. Just about everything that gets made overseas, put on a ship and sent here. That's all going to be affected. And the last shipment of aviation fuel is on its way to the UK. And it is the last one. At the last report, there's no other ships destined for the UK with aviation fuel on it. How will that be prioritised when it gets here? And we get half of our aviation fuel from the Middle East. And this is going to affect the whole of Europe. No wonder Keir Starmer and his crew are having a Cobra meeting this afternoon. And this is the latest. The NHS deliveries of syringes, gloves and IV bags are also at risk. What do you reckon, Richard? Do you reckon it's all sweetness and light and we can just carry on as normal as Keir Starmer says we can?
No, I think the United Kingdom's about to collapse. I think it's about to completely collapse, unfortunately, because we are so heavily exposed to trade routes going through places like the Gulf of Hormuz. We are so massively vulnerable to the ebbs and flows of geopolitical situations and wars that it's unreal. It's absolutely unreal. We're sitting ducks. I mean, you look at Britain right now. We've had consecutive governments who have destroyed any form of self-reliance, self-sufficiency that we previously had. It's all gone. It's all gone. Now we rely utterly on other parts of the world to provide us with food, with fuel, everything. I mean, what are we down? How many are we down to now for oil refineries? I mean, can we actually give ourselves even if we were drilling for oil, can we process it if we had to? You know, what is the actual full state of the infrastructure of the United Kingdom? We're getting rid of, we've gotten rid of our last coal power station, I believe. So we're knackered on that front. But as for actual transportation, everything going throughout the country, if we're relying on oil, if we're relying on imports, that's it. And another thing that's quite worrying is medicines. You know, that's another thing that could get quite scary quite quickly. But not to worry, Jeff, not to worry. There are people within the United Kingdom's borders that will be looked after. Oh, yes. As we saw today, I think it was Danny Tomo did a video showing, one of the centres that these people go to in Dover with, they got Frieden in his new clothes, I believe, there, and et cetera. They'll be well looked after. They won't have to worry. No. It'll be you and I that will have to worry. Because I also saw, I think it was a Jim Ferguson posted earlier, a video which showed a shop, I think it was a greengrocer's, or a marketplace, fruit and veg seller, anyway, at any rate. He might have been much more than that. And the prices had, what, tripled on some items, if not more? I couldn't believe what I was seeing, Jeff. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And if this is to continue...
He was saying that the price of basic things, tomatoes, broccoli and various other things were just going up, had over doubled. So he was paying sort of £10 for a box, a standard sized box of whatever it was. And if it was £10, it's gone up to 20 quid just in a week. Yeah. and he has to pass that on, otherwise he goes bankrupt. So the prices are going to go up. Now the supermarkets presumably will get it cheap because he was a small scale fruiterer compared to the Tesco's and the like, but even they will be paying a lot more for this stuff as time goes through, and then they've got to pay for the transport costs to get it into Tesco's supermarkets and Sainsbury's and all the rest of it. The prices are going to go up, yes.
Well, there's more than that. All about the staffing transport. You know, you've got staff, they have to actually travel to work in their car, many of them, or by public transport. I mean, what happens without staffing costs? What's going to happen? You know, will all of a sudden will workers be having to be paid more because there's less hours for them? So does that increase hourly rate? I don't know. I'm just throwing these things out there. Or are we just looking at mass redundancies? This is about as scary a scenario as I've ever seen. It's far worse than you and I ever imagined. I mean, and then there are going to be people say, oh, well, let's just blame Donald Trump and Israel for this war. I'm like, well, hang on a second. Let's just put that aside. We should be looking right now at blaming our lack of self-sufficiency and our governments, past Tory and Labour governments who have put us in this situation. That's who we should be blaming on this, because there's nobody else. They're the ones who have completely removed any potential of riding out storms like this. You know, we've got the North Sea. It's just above us. The North Sea, it's there. Norway are drilling it. They're doing it. We're not. We're not allowed to. Oh, no. Can't have that because of net zero. Whatever.
No, Richard, it's other people can drill, but if we drill, we'll puncture the earth and it'll just collapse or something.
Oh yes,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Yeah.
Now,
that's probably it. Yeah.
The Financial Times is saying that already, this is only going on for a few weeks, but Asia is now turning to coal for its generation and its heating and everything. Turning to coal, it's almost immediate. They've got the wherewithal to do it. We haven't. And Italy is now debating pushing back the end of their coal electricity generation for a decade until the 2030s. It was meant to end at the end of this year. They were meant to shut it all down. Not going to happen now. Italy are hanging on to them. We can't. We actually got rid of our last coal-powered electricity station back in 2024. And just before that, in 2021, I think it was Alok Sharma, wasn't it? He went and proudly pressed the detonator to bring down a coal-fired power station. Those people, they no thought of having anything on standby for the future. No, they knew we weren't building nuclear. They knew that we were trying to shut down gas. They knew we were shutting coal down. They knew that wind power was not going to do it. They knew that the solar panels aren't doing it, and we haven't got the wherewithal at the moment to do proper tidal energy recovery, that sort of thing, and that has other repercussions. So, but they still did it all, didn't they? Blithely just went on, oh, someone will pick up that mess in 10 years' time. We're here now, not 10 years, it's just a few years and we're here. Anyway, yeah. And that's just the answer to Mark Corby. Thanks. Imagine having your own oil and gas and coal, but choosing not to use it. Deliberate self-destruction. Yeah, absolutely. And this one here from Angel A123. We are buying from Norway for double the price, and Norway will stop it if we can't pay or fall out with Norway. They drill it in the same place. It's called the North Sea. That's where they're getting it from. So why are we buying it from Norway? If we can't drill in the North Sea and it's bad, according to net zero boss Millipede or whatever his name is, if it's bad, then we shouldn't be buying the ruddy stuff. But we do because we need it. We rely on it. We should be drilling our own. What a bunch of...
traitors?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's I don't know why that word sprung to mind. I mean, that's a bit of a harsh word, isn't it, really, traitors? You'd swear they were trying to destroy the British economy and trying to destroy the country in general by allowing plenty of people to enter through our sort of porous borders. You'd swear the king actually would come out and say something like, "Oh, there's no border between England and France." Oh, wait, he did. Yeah. You'd
Yes.
swear the entire system is completely at war with the British people. And some of you say, "Oh, I'm not British, I'm English." I'm not going to go into that argument right now, ladies and gentlemen. But there are, there are English and Welsh, Northern Ireland, Scottish. We sort of all come together, and other people sort of come together, I suppose, under the banner of Britain. But that's another argument for another day. Another debate for another day. But, I'm looking at this country and I'm thinking these people they do seem to be deliberately trying to destroy the United Kingdom. And it's almost as if they want it to be taken over. But then again, here's the other side of it, right? This is ladies and gentlemen, I'm just throwing thoughts out here at the moment. If they wanted to take over the United Kingdom, then that's not going to look too clever for the people who are sort of the latest arrivals. If things start to kick off, if we do start to have energy lockdowns, etc., if there's no people working to support the newcomers into the lifestyle to which they have become accustomed in 4-star, 5-star hotels as well in many cases. So I don't know. I just find it quite a strange scenario to think that this is all about replacement. I think it's much more sinister than that. I think replacement is I'm going quite conspiratorial here. Yes, I know that. Yes, I'm quite aware. I think that replacement is the first step towards something else. And the only thing I can see is, this is why we've got the digital IDs coming, centralized control. I think we are looking at a globalist centralization of control of all things, and I don't care how paranoid that sounds. You just have to look at everything that's going on around you. Look at it. Everything's collapsing. It just seems so coordinated, far too convenient. Anyway, that's enough of me being all conspiratorial about these sort of things. Yes.
Yeah, you're not the only one. As Daily Wash Feet says, what is the end result? Centralised control, anything to get social credit system in and some sort of ID system. Well, they keep on pushing for that, don't they? All the time. And thank you, John Dingle. We are being destroyed. Civil unrest incoming.
Oh,
yeah. Don't get Richard started on that one.
Well, yeah. It is looking a little bit that way, isn't it? To be honest, as if civil unrest is. What do the authorities expect to happen? Okay, you destabilize a culture. Okay, you take the native people of this country and you attempt to, you allow their replacement. We'll say, okay, quite deliberately, and their culture. And no, this is not racist for anybody who's saying it is out there. It's not at all. It's just a basic observation, and there are plenty of very learned people who would agree on this one. Far more learned than myself, I'll have you know. Indeed, I don't know where that accent came from, but there we go. It's just a hybrid of many different colloquial accents. So I think we're going to see people getting rather upset. And what else do the authorities expect to happen? Getting upset. Okay, how does that manifest? Oh, you can't go to work. Okay. You can't pay your mortgage. Oh, okay. You can't pay your rent. Okay. Can't pay your heating bills. Oh, okay. You can't eat. Oh, okay. So we just sit here and just be compliant and just sit there like good little bunnies, not doing anything. So, all right, well, this will all wash over, won't it? I had this conversation with you last night, Jeff, like that film. What was it? When the Wind Blows, one of my favourite films. Raymond Briggs, one of his cartoons. Basically, there's an elderly couple, and it's set in the aftermath of a nuclear strike on Britain, in England. And they're there in their shelter and say, "Oh, not to worry, darling, the authorities will come along, they'll sort it out." Everything's broken down. Nothing's working. Nothing's working at all. Oh, no, the authorities will just come along. No. And I do think there'll be a lot of people who will catch on quite soon that nobody's coming to save us. And I don't want civil unrest. I don't want it, because I know I have a bloody good idea of how that'll look, and it's not pretty. I'm hoping that there will be some kind of democratic way out of this. There will be some way to vote our way out of the situation we're in. I'm not entirely sure that that will work out. But I hope there is.
I might be doing a video on that later.
Oh, okay. Right, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be on the Jeff Taylor channel, though, that will?
On the Jeff Taylor channel, yeah.
Okay,
no, on the Jeff Taylor channel, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, we have decided, just for neatness and for the way that we would like to structure things, our live streams will be mostly done over here on Tripe and Whatnot. So please make sure that you are subscribed to Tripe and Whatnot, which is our sort of joint sister channel for the Jeff Taylor channel. And yes, so please do subscribe to this channel. There we go. I've done that plug. Over to you, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks. And John Dingle, thank you. Our government could reduce taxes, but choose not to. As I pointed out a couple of times on my walkabout videos on this channel and on the other channel as well, the tax take that Rachel Reeves is taking in right now has zoomed up to the equivalent of about 8 billion quid a year, purely on the price of oil going up, oil and gas going up. So there's all sorts of taxes put on business and on the consumer as well that is bringing all this tax in. I mean, they could think about reducing, just taking a penny off of VAT on fuel, just for fuel, but they're not going to. It doesn't look like they have any intention of doing that. They want fuel energy prices as high as humanly possible. And I get the idea that they want to do that because they know that renewable energy is expensive anyway. So if they can get energy prices up really high and then it comes down a bit when we become more renewable, everyone will go, oh, that's good, isn't it? Yeah, I get suspicious of all these people. I really do. And thank you, Champagne Monologues. Politicians have totally destroyed this country. We need to follow the Trump model. Run the country like a business. An actual fact, I've got something on that, actually. Let me just see. Donald Trump has been very forthright about the British, hasn't he? And in his latest Truth Social, let me just hide that because it gets in the way. Donald Trump said the following: all of those countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the US. We have plenty. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Go to the Strait and just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for us. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil. President DJT. So, yes, he's said that. But let's move on a bit. It's not just the UK he's had a go at. Oh, no. He had a go at another country, so you'll like this one. The country of France wouldn't let planes headed to Israel loaded up with military supplies fly over French territory. France has been very unhelpful with respect to the butcher of Iran, who has been successfully eliminated. The USA will remember. President DJT. So there you go. He's made his feelings felt, hasn't he? And running it like a business, I suppose, in some ways. But the thought of the UK just sort of turning up at the Strait of Hormuz and taking oil, I'm not quite sure we're up to that at all these days. I think, thank you, John Dingle. Wait a minute. You have no choice, Richard. Too far gone now. Yeah, everything's... that's in relation to what you said about voting and the elections and stuff. There's a lot of talk about that out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So just going back to the point there, though. We take oil. We can't take people off rubber dinghies coming across the channel. We can't do that. We cannot do that. It's way beyond, clearly, the capability of His Majesty's Royal Navy now to actually do that. Oh, some people say there's no will there. I'm actually wondering, is our Navy really in that bad a state? They can't even leave dock. You know, that's what I'm starting to wonder. Okay, maybe I'm being a bit hyperbolic here. Well, or maybe there's more to it. Maybe it's, if we were to have our navy in the Channel, maybe because it's the size of it and the overstretched nature of the British Navy at the moment, maybe that would mean that there would be security risks elsewhere. Is that the fact of the matter? I don't know. I do know that if there was enough political will, we could turn all this around tomorrow. And to be honest with you, if we were to enter the real state this country should be in, which is a war footing, we should be on a war footing.
Yeah.
Whether we're at war or not with Iran is another matter entirely. I'm talking about if we are at war with our invasion. There is an invasion taking place of Great Britain, okay? It meets all the criteria. This is not some kind of racist comment, okay, that some people would have thrown at you. I don't care about that term being described as, racist when you're talking about invasion. It doesn't matter what colour you are. You're coming across our channel. You're entering illegally. Are we supposed to be welcoming you? Well, apparently we are, according to some people. I mean, you look at... here's the scary thing, Jeff, and we're going back to this whole thing about if we're going to have some kind of civil unrest, and that is, you look at the probability of that when you look at who could very well be the leader of the next government, and that's Zach Polanski. That is a terrifying thought. Well, Jeff, at the end of the day, you did a video about this quite recently, based on current voting habits. The left wing are more capable of pulling together an electable bloc than the right combined. When I said the left, I'm talking about the Greens, the Lib Dems, and Labour Party, and whoever else, the SNP. They could possibly come together to form some kind of united bloc against the right bloc, we'll call it. Now, this is where... this is looking more concerning. It's like Reform are falling down slightly in the polls all the time. Restore indeed are going up. What Restore have to do now, though, is, which they are in the better position to do, incidentally, is to meet the losses that they will not be able to gain via the centre ground of politics, okay, especially the centre-left. The left are not going to vote for Restore. That's not going to happen. We know that. And... so they have to offset that by pulling in previously disenfranchised voters from what we will call the right. But will it match that centre ground? Is it big enough? That's the risk. That's the task that... the size of the task ahead for Rupert Lowe and for Restore is to be able to sort of meet the losses or the lack of votes potentially coming from the centre ground and the left of politics. Because let's face it, Restore have managed to pull in people from the left as well. We know that. I mean, they're pulling in Tories. Although I will say this, Rupert Lowe is, I'll be mentioning this probably later if I'm on another podcast on another channel later on tonight. There is the possibility that it can be done because Rupert did make an appeal to the centre ground when he took Restore from being a pressure group to a political party. The first thing he did on his video on the farm was he made an appeal straight to the centre ground. He said, I'd like to reach out to people in Reform, in the Conservative Party, and in Advance, and in the SDP. He was not going... his initial appeal was not to people from the far right, okay, or the hard right, whatever you're calling it. However this has all been framed, whatever, I don't care. His initial thought was to reach out to those people because he knows he's going to require that bulk of people. He's going to need Middle England to be able to get past the post, really, and form a decisive government. I mean, even if he doesn't form a majority government, just to be the kingmaker at least, or the lead position within a coalition. And yeah, so I think Rupert Lowe, I mean, he's savvy. He's got his head switched on in terms of which side he's going to be going for. He's going to be trying to pull in people from the further on the right, not too far, obviously, because he'll put off the centre ground. It's a balancing act, but he's also going to be bringing the people from the centre. Sorry, rambling on here, but at the end of the day, this is the situation that Restore faces right now. It has got to win the election. He has got to meet that balancing act. Now, I know a lot of people didn't vote in the Gaunton and Denton by-election. Okay, there's a hell of a lot of people didn't vote. That's correct. And there's a lot of there's what's it 25% is it of it might be more than that actually, but 25% of voters do not vote and do not engage in politics. of potential voters. And you think, right, okay, but he's going to have to pull all of those in, because there might be a split on those people who are disengaged from politics, who will be neither left nor right. You know, they'll be somewhere they're floating between the two, or they might be quite left wing. This is going to be a difficult task for Restore, and can it be done? Of course it can be done. But I will say this, I think they have greater potential to extend their reach than Reform do. And that's not me having a pop at Reform. I'm just saying it as I see it at the moment. But Reform are still the largest political party on the right of centre at the moment. It's just trying to work out how this is all going to play out is very difficult.
We don't know, Richard.
Very difficult.
We don't know.
We don't
know how people think. We haven't got a clue.
Exactly.
So when you go to the don't knows, you say to the don't knows, who are you voting for? What do they say? I don't know. So you don't know. You don't know how they think.
Exactly.
And that's. I just want to go back to this thing about the Royal Navy being sort of absent. Just recently, I did a video on this. The government, or Keir Starmer, declared that our special forces, UK special forces and law enforcement, will start boarding the Russian shadow fleet that goes around supplying oil. 400 or 500 tankers involved in this exercise of getting oil from Russia out to the rest of the world via dodgy flags and all the rest of it. And we were going to start boarding them if they go in UK waters. Now, if we haven't got a Royal Navy, we are on the back foot right away, because we're relying on helicopters and stuff like that. But how do you get the small boats there? And it's very difficult. And I read just the other day that the next day, a group of these ships went through the channel unchallenged. So obviously Putin had decided that let's throw the gauntlet down. Here you go. Here's some meat for you. And they weren't stopped, as far as I'm aware. Nothing happened. So no big declarations have come out of this. So is that just more, words from Keir Starmer? But the other thing, of course, is that with no fuel, how are they going to get across the channel in their little rubber boats? How will they get the rubber boats in the first place if transport in France starts declining?
Whoa. They're made out of rubber. They're made out of rubber, which comes from oil. That's the other side of it.
And they get transported from China. So do the engines and stuff like that come from all over the place. So they got to get them there, haven't they? They got to get them on. And then, I'm assuming that Border Force and RNLI, all their boats will be prioritised for petrol, diesel, whatever it is they run on, because they don't run on wind power or solar power. They run on big diesel engines, presumably, that powers them through. So, yeah. But just a thought. You can imagine that, can't you? Them when they come across, we could actually ask them to bring some oil with them, couldn't we? Bring some petrol cans with you when you come across, because we need it more than you do.
And I've worked out how they're going to get across, actually, Jeff. You're going to have Ed Miliband with his ukulele. Alsace blowing in the wind, whatever he was bloody playing. And he'd be paddling away with his little ukulele. And he will be the taxi service. Yes, he would be the taxi service for those rubber boats. It won't be rubber, they'll be wooden. They'll be made by Greta Thunberg, probably out of recycled... I don't know.
No, she knits them, doesn't she?
Oh, yeah,
she'll
knit a boat using yogurt. Yeah, that's how it's all going to work.
Now, thank you, John Dingle. You said one good thing people have or are waking up. Yes, more and more people are waking up. And that is one of the things that I think will help the likes of Rupert Lowe. Because when people wake up, they're not going to sort of say, oh, I tell you what, I think we need some more. Illegal immigrants, or I think we need some more wokeness, or I think we need to. No, when they wake up, they've woken up because it's all broken, and they look for something new. That's the way I see it happening. They go, "Wow, they failed. They've all failed." Labour, Tories, Lib Dems, Greens, whatever, they've all failed. So we're going for these guys, because don't think that the Greens are the new people on the block. They've been around for years. They've had MPs and they've had presence in Parliament. They failed as well. They failed us. They've made themselves okay, but they failed the rest of us, the majority.
Jeff, just look. If you want to know how far gone this country is towards collapse, again, just look at the Greens. Look at that thing that they're all those people were degenerates were on stage dancing and yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And
yes,
years ago, that would have been like, people would have looked at it and thought, "What? This has got incredible comedic value. That's incredible. This is hysterical. Nobody would ever vote for that. Nobody would vote. The entire nation would be in uproar, in hysterics and in uproar, looking at this, thinking, what is this? This would have made the news. People saying, look at this. And the newscasters would have been rolling around the floor laughing. Now, they're a credible political party, apparently, and potentially, Zach Polanski could be the next prime minister. How... let that sink in for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. That man
that's
as
up
prime
to
minister.
us.
Wow.
That's up to us out here. That's up to everybody in the country. Are they going to look at the... what do they call him? The whisperer of mounds or whatever it is that he whispers at to try and make them grow.
Oh yes.
What a
whisperer.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it, but yeah.
Yeah.
And John Dingle, thank you again. Board Russian boat so Starmer can take the oil. Actually, that's not a bad idea, really, is it? If it's because they are all those are under embargo or sanctioned by us. They're on the sanctions list. Nearly 500. I think it's about 500 shadow Russian vessels are on our sanctions list. I had a look at the sanctions list. It's a PDF. It's about 1,000+ pages long of all these people that are sanctioned by us and all these companies that are sanctioned by us and each individual ship as well. So, oh dear. And the 455 are just Russian attached. There are others as well. So, yeah, it's quite a thing, that. Yes. And this is true. This is the bit that confuses. I believe that Polanski is a Jew. I think he's Polish, is he? Or Polish descent? I'm not sure.
I believe he's Jewish, yes.
And he's got into bed effectively with people, some of whom would wish him harm. So you thinking to yourself, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's
just
Jewish,
a complete and utter
gay.
plank.
He's also gay.
It's
and
even worse,
Jewish.
isn't it?
So to a certain people who he has now gotten into bed with, not metaphor, this is metaphorically, not literally. Some of the people that his party have gotten into bed with, let's just say that the way that their belief system works, Zach Polanski shouldn't be going up any tall buildings anytime soon. That's the way that works, unfortunately, not to make too much light over what's a real situation in many parts of the world, where people are, if you are same-sex attracted, we'll call it. That's what they...
Yes.
That's the only way to describe what we're talking about. No, Jeff, just 2 seconds. Just 2 seconds. The people who are same-sex attracted, in certain parts of the world, they meet some very sticky ends in places like Gaza. And, yes. And I'm not just talking about
we all know
men, I'm talking about women as well. And that is awful. And not just in Gaza, it happens in Egypt as well. And you're like, oh, okay. I don't know. Very strange times. Here we go.
Yes, Jeremy GB1 says the Zionists work with the Muslims to flood Europe with immigrants.
Well, interesting. Not so sure about that one. But the interesting thing, which I will say does happen, was it Ed Dunton? I can't remember. He's doing something on the Zionists and the Jews are getting the blame for a lot, but then again, there's the Quakers, and I really want to read that book that he's working on about the Quakers and their involvement. It's like, yes, the Jews might be involved in X, Y, and Z, potentially with some of these NGOs. Okay, right, park that over there for one moment. But there's also other groups of people who are doing stuff. So, okay, and some of them have got larger shares in or larger contributors, I should say, to some of these organisations. And like, all right. I'm not saying the Quakers. I mean, we don't want people to say, oh, go and hate the Quakers. I'm not saying that. I don't think we should be hating anyone except for those who directly wish to do us harm. And the people that I'm seeing The main people. Look, it's very easy to sort of look at. Even it's very easy to pick on the demographic who's coming over here. They're opportunists. They're going to come over here. That's it. I want to know who the people are who are opening the doors to them. Our actual government, themselves, those individuals who will not incidentally be Jewish, who will not be Zionist. There'll be something else. A lot of them are on the just purely left-wing thinking. Many of them, incidentally, on the far left especially, hate Israel and hate Zionism and hate Jews. So you're like, who is behind it? There is some great evil at play. That is all I will say. There's some great evil at play. And as Billy Bogus 88 here says, anti-Christianity. Yes, that seems to be the main thing that's happening. That's the main enemy here, is the anti-Christian movement. And I'm seeing some people, incidentally, on what you might call the far right, the real far right, who are very much anti-Christian as well. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, there we go. Whatever. I don't know. There just seems to be so many sides colliding at the moment to destabilize, especially the right in politics at the moment. I've never seen this before. I've seen people who you'd think, should be banding together now in complete opposition with each other. I'm like, yeah. Meanwhile, our borders are porous. Meanwhile, our children are not safe to walk the streets. Meanwhile, we're about to be hit by a tidal wave of price increases. If we are looking at, for some people, just food prices going up by a third would be, or a quarter, 10, 20% would be enough to tip them over the edge into bankruptcy. Okay, what if we're talking about food prices tripling? What's that going to do to this country? I mean, oil going up, doubling, going up by 100%. What's that going to do? How is that going to affect the elderly who have already had many of their benefits taken off them? It's disgusting, Jeff.
Yeah. Things are going to get very interesting. It's the Chinese curse, isn't it? May you live in interesting times. And we now live in very interesting times. And I think they're going to get more interesting. I don't think this is going to stop anytime soon. Even if they were to magically mend everything with relation to Hormuz, that would include having to put the infrastructure back in place to keep the exports or restart the exporting. And a lot of damage has been done to those facilities. So oil and gas is not going to come straight out as Donald Trump signs a piece of paper and it all just restarts. No, it's going to take weeks, if not months, to sort this out. And it's not going to be pleasant for the rest of us. There'll be price gouging like you've never seen before in the last, I don't know when it would last have happened. So it's going to be awful. And this is the sort of thing that starts sparking civil unrest. If you get if the poor people, the poorest people, aren't looked after in any shape or form, they will riot. They will. They'll have no choice, will they?
Oh yeah,
they can't feed
totally,
their kids.
Totally.
So it could all begin to get very, very tasty. But if you do help the poorest, you can only help the poorest. You can't help everybody else. Everybody else has to pay, and they get a bit iffy. And it will take a real statesman-like government to achieve that. And guess what? We haven't got one of those. So yeah. I don't.
The thing is, Jeff, you've been saying this for a long time, though. Yeah. That's what people don't understand. I mean, you've been saying it publicly, but also in private conversations, that the thing which will probably kick off civil unrest in this country will not be, we'll say, an attack by a certain demographic. It'll actually be a financial crash, and that will be enough to do it. And I think that could very well, unfortunately, play out to be true. I hope none of this happens. I just, I'm trying to work out exactly how we can get around this, but I have no idea how we can. So, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, suffering, as you can probably tell my eye at the moment. It happens usually seasonal, and it's I haven't been of the best of health. I am returning to health, though, so bear with me whilst I stand here like Long John Silver with a patch over my eye.
Yeah. Yes, it's been sorry, we are going through some very, very, very worrying times. And when people talk about civil unrest, even civil war, there are so many factions out there who have an interest, who will have an interest in the outcome. They may not have an interest in it starting, but if it starts, they will have an interest in the outcome. And I'll point to various groups of people on this, and start with the nationalists, like the Scottish nationalists, Welsh nationalists, Irish nationalists, and English nationalists. They have a preferred outcome from any sort of civil war. It will be their own self-governance, if you like. There are Wessex nationalists, Cornish nationalists. There are those who want to install a caliphate. They have their own aim, outcome. So once a civil war starts, however you spark it, it will develop and morph into factions, and they'll join up with a faction today, but split that and join with another one tomorrow. You won't know who to trust. You won't know where to turn. And what you'll end up is with villages ganging together, holding together. You make your community where you can trust people. Everyone else outside your village becomes an alien. You don't trust them because you don't know them. And that's sort of what happens. And you get, a group of horsemen turn up at the outskirts of your village. What are you going to do? Just let them in because they want some water and they're very friendly, or what? It's awful. It's awful.
Yeah, you can tell that Jeff and I have spent far too much time thinking about these scenarios, which unfortunately is true. And we have actually studied this quite a bit. But that's, you make some very good points there. There'll be different factions. I mean, in a civil unrest, let's just talk about, England. I mean, the four nations would split instantly. That's one thing that would be a foregone conclusion. I do also believe England would be in a worse position than any of the other nations at the moment, because of the demographic rejiggling, we'll call it, that has taken place over the past 30 odd years. I think that it would be, England is not looking the best to weather this storm. And I do worry about England. I really do worry about England very much. And I just hope that we can all find some way of avoiding this, if it's possible. Because I've heard for a while the Welsh nationalists and the Scottish nationalists talking about sort of a unification, Scotland and Wales unifying outside of England, out of the United Kingdom, just becoming like a Celtic nation, or possibly joining with Ireland, and then England being on its own, which I think is a horrific scenario outcome. I think that ideally there will remain a union, probably a renegotiated one where England gets its own say in English matters. I think that's something that's been missing for a long time. Scotland's got its own parliament. Wales has got its own parliament. England doesn't. It has the Houses of Parliament. If you're from Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, you get to vote on matters within England. But then again, everybody gets to vote on matters within Britain right now, because anybody can walk into this country right now and be given a vote. Practically, that's the way things are moving ahead, and that's very, very worrying. Very worrying. And sorry, over to you, Jeff.
Yes. On that, it's quite funny that out of the there's 67 million people in this country, so we're told. So out of that lot, I don't know how much of that is over 18, so maybe 45 million can vote. I don't know, I'm just guessing. 4.4 million of those people can't vote in general elections, but most of them can vote in other elections, local elections, where the money's spent, council elections, stuff like that. And what worries me is that when people come into this country, they don't suddenly become British. They step off the aeroplane or off the rubber boat, their foot goes onto the sand or onto the airport strip. Suddenly they're British and they think British and they love Britain. It doesn't work like that. They bring everything with them, their battles, the baggage of their past conflicts, and they bring it with them. And what really hacks me off is when I saw those pro-Iranian regime marches, and there were people there who had obviously come across here, some of them saying they wanted to run away from the regime, that regime in Iran, and there they were trumpeting it and saying how wonderful that regime is. And you're thinking, well, if that's the case, get them on a plane back, because they obviously want to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't see the problem with that. I really don't.
No.
But
I mean, the good and decent people of Iran, can't wait to return to Iran once the current regime has been gotten rid of, I suppose is the best way to describe it. How that's going to play out, I don't know. It's looking quite ugly out there at the moment in Iran. But know this, the people of Iran do not want that regime. I can tell you that as a matter of fact, by the way. Yeah. Sorry, going back to the whole point, though, about anyone coming here and becoming British, it's horrific how that has been allowed to happen. And as I said, there is a lot of people now there are a lot of people who I can totally sympathise with, who are no longer looking at their self-identification as British, but as Welsh, Scottish, Northern Irish and English. And that was very much the way things were, incidentally, going back not that long ago, Jeff. We're only talking about the last century. This whole concept of being British is a relatively new thing. I mean, the 1940s, I think, it really accelerated. But the whole concept was, we were sort of tied under the banner of being British. I mean, what is an Englishman? What is a British man? What is a Scot? These are quite. I've done a deep dive. I'm going to do this video at some point on what it means to be British, what it means to be English, Scottish, Northern Irish, and no, before anyone says it, I'm not a civ nat, and I'm not an ethno nat either. I'm not either. I don't like those terms. We have to address them when people identify as such. If they want to, okay, well, what does that mean if you identify as a civ nat or an eth nat? It's all very complicated, and I think there are some very, very basic, simple things to say, incidentally, because I've been accused of not knowing what an Englishman is. Okay, let me just spell it out for you and give you an answer which Jeff and myself gave some years ago, and that is this. Engle land of the Engles. It means people who are descended from people of Saxon and, Anglo-Saxon descent, Germany and Denmark, who then interbred eventually with the peoples of Britain, not England. England didn't exist before then. It was the Britain, and obviously many of them were forced west to Cornwall, to Wales, and then they were driven out down to France, down to Brittany, northern France, northwest France, whatever you call it, down to Brittany. And that's why they still speak, a dialect of Welsh and a Brythonic language there to this day. And that's what happened. The Anglo-Saxons drove the British out of large parts of Britain. Today, but there were those who remained. There is still certain Celtic connections as well within the English genome. But if you were, I was doing some research quite recently, on the east of England, the British, what we call the ancient Britain DNA component, is as small as like 10% in certain pockets. So yeah, it's quite fascinating what it is to be British. There's a lot of, for instance, I've been talking for years to some people in Wales, some of them are Welsh nationalists and quite extreme Welsh nationalists I've known over the years, and they're saying, "Oh, hang on, when are we gonna kick the English out of Britain? When are we gonna get our London back? When are we gonna get our land back in our English lands back?" And yeah, okay, so there's a lot of people who are. This is why we got hammered by a load of people who totally misunderstood the point we were making in a previous conversation. Look, I said, this is a very nuanced debate. Being English, there you go. That's what that means. Okay, put it in context of Britain. Hang on a second, it means something else. So it's a complicated debate. It's a good one. I'm up for that debate. I love it. I won't shy away from it. Jeff.
Yes, as Olio GTB08 PG says, Rupert is warming up the plane's engines. Yeah, you got to remember exactly who he's warming them up for. It's all the illegals, it's the criminals, it's those who are taking our benefit system for a ride, people who don't want to fit in, people who wish us harm. It's those sorts of people that he is actually aiming at getting out of the country, either directly initially and by putting in place a hostile environment so that those who are of no benefit or worse to us will self-deport. They'll go back because it would be too hard for them to survive here. And that's all doable. It is all doable. And we've just got to have the courage to do it. Why do we have to tolerate the intolerable? We have been told. How many times has Keir Starmer got up on his hind legs and said, being British means you are tolerant? What he means is being British to him is us being tolerant of everybody who throws any SH1T at us. And we say, thank you for doing that because we're so tolerant. We must give that up. We have to stop being like that. He thinks that tolerance is being a doormat. That's what he thinks. He thinks the nation must be a doormat so that it can go out into the world and say, look how tolerant we are of being trodden all over. No, that's got to end. So what we've got to do is we've got to have tolerance within our own society for each other and obey the laws that we put in place, but have intolerance for people who come in and try to stir it all up and try to order us about and try to change what we do. No, we shouldn't have tolerance for that. But that's just my view.
Yeah, sorry. I'll go back to a comment I just saw earlier. If I can find it. Gosh, quite a few coming. This is our secondary channel. We're quite surprised we're getting people actually coming in. It's fantastic. Yes, David Hughes.
Yeah.
Celts are not. Sorry, Celts are the ancient Britons. Now this is again very interesting points about Celt. Who is what? Because there's a belief that the Saxons and the Britons are ethnically the same anyway. And it's like, well, it's not quite like that because you're talking about different descents, totally different migrations from different parts of the world. And you go, hang on a second. Oh, we all just came across from. No, hang on. Okay, so you've got the Celts are basically, from what I can gather, the descendants of the Bell Beakers. Okay, the Bell Beaker people who replaced, I believe, 90%, especially in the east of England, of the Neolithic farmers who lived there prior to that. The Neolithic farmers being the people who built Stonehenge, who were ethnically, incidentally, totally different to the peoples of the Anglo-Saxons, for instance. Very, very different people. They're very different looking. You'll find this with the Silurians. Tacitus, when he came to Britain, he noted, for instance, the Silurians of South Wales area.
Oh, we're losing you, Richard.
Very dark looking, tight. Oh, curly hair. Can you still hear me? Can you still hear me, Jeff?
You're back now. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Basically, let me just go back to what I was saying there. The Celts, not the Celts, sorry, the Silurians, the tribes of Siluria were very dark, quite dark skinned. Not Cheddar Man, that's a totally different thing. We're Cheddar Man, not talking about that nonsense now, right? We're talking about a different racial group and their racial migration through, their ethnic migration to Britain. Very, very different to those of the Anglo-Saxons. You are talking about different groups of people, and that's why the appearances within Britain are so different. Again, as I said, in South Wales valleys, you'd have people with tight curly hair, quite darker skinned, but they were the descendants more of the Neolithic ancestry than they were of the Bell Beakers, incidentally, who came through. And the Bell Beakers, of course, were descended of steppe ancestry, just like the corded ware people who came over across and sort of became a lot of the Germanic peoples and the Vikings. I mean, who also mixed with Mesolithic hunter-gatherers, Neolithic. Oh, it's a vast subject, but it's fascinating because there's a hell of an assumption going on out there that the people of Britain are one race and they're the same ethnic race to those of northern Europe. No. They're quite different, totally different migratory routes. One took north, one took mid. There we go. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jeff, over to you.
I've just been reading through the comments, and a lot of people are saying, no, it's this, it's that. There's a lot of differing opinions. I'm not saying which one's right, which one's wrong, but there is a lot of differing opinions just in the comment section here about the heritage, about the history, about whatever it is, and who is what and why and wherefores. And that's what muddies this whole thing. And so when someone
exactly.
says, I am British or I am English, they themselves have their own definition of what that means. And the person next to him says, yes, I'm English as well, has a totally different understanding of what it means. So we have to be very careful with this sort of language. And that's what Richard and I have been saying. It's very complex. And I will also point out, Angel A123 is absolutely right here. Rupert is going to help any British person bring their spouses over from any country or colour. He's made it quite clear that he has said in his latest ex-post on this issue that he believes in positive immigration. Where people are positive to the UK, he will encourage them and make it a positive thing for them to come here if they've got special skills, or if they are spouses of British, or UK, because I count it as the UK. And he said that quite clearly. So you have to bear that in mind as well. Now, I didn't know this, but just put this in. Kenzie 2022 says, churches are telling their congregations that we are at the end of history. It's getting worse. They are waiting for Jesus to come. Well, all the signs are there, I'm afraid. They are. All the signs are there. You don't have to believe, but all you have to do is just look at what the Bible says, compare it to what's going on today, and there's a gnat's whisker between the two. What's happening and what was foretold in the Bible in certain sectors. So what you just have to, I'm a Christian, but what I will, it's up to you to go and have a look. And but I have seen what's going on, and I compare it to the words, and very interesting, isn't it, Richard? Eschatology, they call it.
Eschatology, absolutely. There are so many signs of this. Funny enough, one of the signs of the end times would be nation against nation. Now, I believe that the translation of that is ethnos against ethnos, which is actually an ethnic war potentially arising, which... Yeah, and we're starting to see... Sorry, this reminds me of something as well, incidentally. A lot of people forget where the name Wales comes from, the Welsh comes from. It was given by the Anglo-Saxons to the original inhabitants of Britain, the Welsh. Okay, I know. Let's just go with that because that's factual. They were given the term Welsh, or Wale, I think it is, which means foreigner. That's where the name comes from. The Welsh are actually called foreigners. They were given it by the Anglo-Saxons, and that's where the name arose from. And that's why so many people fled. The British fled Britain when the Anglo-Saxon invasion comes in. Now, look, I'm 25% Anglo-Saxon myself, so I'm not having a pop at anyone. It's just we need to get quite accurate on this. And a few people mentioned mixed race. Well, quite interesting that the mixing of races took place within the British genome, that's for sure. And people say, oh, you're talking about Cheddarman. No, not talking about Cheddarman, I'm talking about Neolithic farmers. Again, many people noted that, of the Romans in particular, Tacitus, that the Britons looked very different. And you look at the genealogical record and the ancestry and the migration routes. And many of the Bell Beakers, incidentally, in the Celts originated from the Anatolia and the Caucasus, and are more descended to what you might call Iranian farming. The Iranian farmers, we'll call it. So that's another totally different thing. It's so strange. There's been mixing of races going on for a very long time. Now, we don't view them as separate races today because that's become the baseline. The baseline today are people who are of Mesolithic descent, of Neolithic descent, and of modern-day Northern European descent. They've all merged, and we have a certain sort of look. So there is an English sort of race. It is a mixture. It is already mixed. To be English is to be mixed race in many respects. Not by today's standards, before anyone starts saying, oh, you're talking rubbish. No, I've actually really looked into this. But it would be perceived as mixed race, certainly to the people at the time, who thought that the Saxons coming in looked very, very different to the indigenous people of Britain at the time. It's funny. As I said, this is a very difficult argument and conversation to have. It has divided people across the right at the moment because people are trying to work out what is an Englishman, what is mixed race, what is a Briton, and it's a very, very nuanced conversation. Carl Benjamin actually said that the genetic pattern of the English itself throughout England, I think it was him who said, or across Britain, is a patchwork. It's various, you've got different influences from Viking and Norse to Bell Beaker to Neolithic to even areas where there's more Mesolithic DNA still. And they're very different races. Interesting stuff, though. I suggest you all have a good look into it, and we can have a debate on this at a future date. You're muted, Jeff. You're muted.
Best thing for me, muted. Yes. No, and we'll all come out with different opinions, won't we? So everyone will read up on it, and a lot of people read into it what they want it to read into it, just like everyday politics. It's very hard for people to overcome some of these things. So, yeah, it's very, very difficult. Anyway, Richard, I think we've gone from one subject to three others.
Well, the thing is, it's a big subject. Yeah. It's a big subject at the moment. This is something which is dominating a lot of the discourse on the right. And I think, well, if we could have the conversation, we should have it. Let's not shy away from it. Somebody said, a Welshman, I'm not Welsh, by the way, I just have a Welsh accent. I was actually born in Manchester. My mother's side are mostly English, and there we go. Yeah, it's what happens when you live in a place long enough. You develop the accent. There we go. I am apparently those 7% Welsh, and my ancient Britain DNA component is 20%, which is not bad. Not bad.
Yes. Right. I think we've said enough now, Richard. I've got to prepare for another video later. So, it's just to say thank you very much, The Black Nothing. I can't stand end times talk because Christians will use that type of talk to be complacent. Everyone since the resurrection has thought this. So basically, yeah, I get that. If you think it's the end of the world, then you may as well just sit back and have several beers, a big curry, and not worry about it. Oh, do English people have to deport curry as well?
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the things I've got to say.
Roast beef. Now, there you go.
Let me go on the other attack end side of things here a second, though, Jeff. One of the things that's mentioned, people talk about, if it wasn't for our diversity, we wouldn't have X, Y, and Z in our culinary experience here in the UK. I just don't care. I think most people right now have got one concern and one concern alone, and that is fighting the correct enemy. And I'm not talking physically, by the way, metaphorically, of course. Fighting the correct enemy. We are being invaded right now, okay? None of these conversations we're having about, for instance, ethnicity, etc., would be taking place, say, about 10 years ago, or no, 30 years ago, we'll say, before Tony Blair, at least. None of these conversations would be taking place. We wouldn't be having it because the demographic hadn't shifted. There has been a replacement of what I will call the indigenous English people in particular. Because if you actually look at Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, the demographic replacement has been much lower, much less. And I think that we have to look at the... Oh, and here's another thing. If you're talking about what an Englishman is somebody whose ancestors have been here, let's just say, for the past 1,000 years. Okay, that's deep ancestry, going back to over 1,000 years, going back to the Anglo-Saxon invasion into Britain. And that's all there is to say on the matter. It's like anyone trying to tell you anything else is... just lying to you. And if somebody says that anybody can become an Englishman, no, you can't, because there is a genetic component to being English, okay? That's it. End of. If you're half English, whatever. You're still half English then. If you're quarter whatever, you're quarter that. You can go along with that, but it depends how far back you want to take it. You know, are you fully bell beaker? Are you fully corded ware? I mean, a lot of people haven't heard of the corded ware or the bell beakers, but there we go.
Yes. Anyway, there is no such thing as pure race, right? That's probably as close as we'll get to anything on this, unless one lone Martian comes down. One lone Martian, they're the only Martian, purebred Martian. That's about it. Anyway, I'd just like to say thank you very much for joining us on this channel, Tripe and Whatnot. Please don't forget to subscribe so you get, because we're going to do live streams going forward on this channel. So, yeah. And we also, at the moment, I do out and about videos. I get up in the morning, read the newspapers, get depressed, go out for a walk and talk about it as I'm walking around, just musing away about things, and then show you some of the countryside while I'm out and about. And Richard's done a couple already. He'll be starting that as well going forward. So it'll be quite a busy channel, but we're looking at this one being a more chatty sort of, thing where we can mull over things and all the rest of it. And of course, Richard also has his own channel as well, Richard Unleashed. Indeed. So you need to go and have a look at that one as well.
I mean, as you said, Jeff, what we're trying to do is trying to delineate the channels a little bit. I will be also occasionally going across to the Jeff Taylor channel. We found in the past that sometimes Jeff isn't very well, and I have to fill in for him. So instead of me being a bit of too much of a surprise over there, you know, I do a lot in the background anyway on the Jeff Taylor channel. Jeff will tell you this himself. You know, I'm quite a busy man. Let's just say to say the least on that channel in the background, but. It's good to keep a hand in there, but we'd like to really push forward with this new channel. So make sure you are subscribed to this one as well. And we need to be pushing this one a bit more, Jeff. And I need to get out and about because my health is slowly returning. Thank you very much. There we go. Oh, sorry. What is Richard's channel? It's called Richard Unleashed. I'm not putting up much at the moment. But I mean, this on the Jeff Taylor channel. And Richard Unleashed. The three channels are Jeff Taylor and Richard channels. We pool everything together, our workloads together. We do help each other out a lot on all things, so we work together as a team, and that's it. There we go.
Right, and there you go. And on that note, I shall say that it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him, the living legend that is Mr. Jeff Taylor. Goodbye.
Or should I say it's goodbye from Tripe and it's good night from Whatnot.